In today's conversation, we're gonna cover something called Pick 2 for easy fat loss. Why only 2 activities to lose weight? Well, most people get stuck in analysis paralysis, where they're spending way too much time researching and overthinking things. So in my vantage point as a registered dietitian, I've helped many people lose weight and get healthier, what I've noticed is there are just a few really high impact activities that when you put your attention and focus into them, and I'm gonna challenge you to a time period of 45 days, you're gonna see an explosion with your energy levels, better health, and for most people, that's where they really notice their clothes start to fit a whole lot better. As a thank you for sticking things out, we also have a completely free downloadable PDF so you can play along with the Pick 2 plan and have easy weight loss in the next 45 days. Okay, let's dive in. My name is Jennifer Broxterman and I am a registered dietitian. I want to get right into those hard-hitting Pick 2 options, and really truly, as we go through the list today, do not commit to all of them. I want you to listen to your head, your intuition, your heart of what's going to feel like a really easy win. It's going to challenge you a little bit, but don't go to the ones that feel monumentally difficult. Go to the ones that are like, it's going to take a bit of work, but I definitely know I have it in me. So the very first one on our Pick 2 easy fat loss plan is to actually go 45 days alcohol free. I know, hear me out for just a second for some of the reasons why. So first, I'm gonna get a little nerdy with you and we're gonna go into the science of alcohol's calories. So really quick overview, there are 4 places we can get calories from in our diet. We have carbohydrates, which give us 4 calories per gram. We have protein, which also gives us 4 calories per gram. We have alcohol, which gives 7 calories per gram. And then we have fat, which gives 9 calories per gram. So this per calorie per gram reading basically tells us that for 1 gram on a food scale, how many calories are densely packed into that unit or that single gram. And as you can see, alcohol comes in second place, just behind fat. So it means that in terms of the space it takes up in our stomach, for each gram of alcohol, it is really densely packed full of calories. On top of that, most of the time we consume alcohol as a liquid, right? We're drinking beer or wine or spirits or whatever the case might be. Liquid doesn't do as good of a job slowing down the transit from the stomach to the small intestine. It actually very easily flows from one compartment to the other, meaning we don't get hours and hours of fullness from a glass of wine. I mean, I've never had a family dinner where after a glass of wine, we're all like, oh, that wine has really filled me up. I definitely don't have room for dessert. But when you think about eating solid food, like crunching on a really leafy kale salad or cutting up, chicken or steak, having a, roasted sweet potato, you have to chew it slowly. You have to swallow it in little chunks. It's going to bounce around on the inside of your stomach and you're going to get minutes or hours of satisfaction from a solid food. So that's kind of problem number 1 when it comes to alcohol, is just the form that we consume those really dense liquid calories. But there's a second problem. Alcohol is something known as a priority fuel. So what is a priority fuel? I'm going to use a little metaphor to help explain it. So if you've ever been to an amusement park and you're part of the general public, you know how it goes. You've got to wait in line for your turn to go on the really fun ride. But there always seems to be that group of people that have that fast pass where they can just cut the line and hop right on the roller coaster even though you've been waiting for 45 minutes. Alcohol has a fast pass. So as a priority fuel, what that means is because the body recognizes alcohol as a toxin, meaning we could go our whole lives and never consume a single thing of alcohol, and our cells not only would, survive, but they would thrive. It would be a very great condition for them. So whenever that chemical, that toxin comes into our body goes, uh-oh, we got to deal with this first. So alcohol cuts the line in front of fats, in front of carbs, in front of proteins, as our liver works really hard to detoxify it. It also means that we burn those alcohol calories first. So think about this for a second. If you're just sitting here chilling out in a sort of a sedentary, non-active position, most of the time we're burning our body fat as well as the nutrients from our last meal to provide energy to the cells. And so when we have alcohol in our system, alcohol actually cuts the line and those alcohol calories are burned first. So say you had a drink that had 320 calories to it. That means that those 320 calories you might have burned as body fat are delayed or not burned at all while you're burning the alcohol calories first. So that's what I mean when I say alcohol is a priority fuel. Lastly, alcohol majorly disrupts our sleep. If you wear any of the smart technology like the rings or the watches, and you notice patterns on nights that you drink alcohol versus days that you don't, people actually have much deeper and more restorative sleeps when they don't have any alcohol in their system. So there are some really important appetite hormones that we regulate while we're fast asleep, ghrelin and leptin being some of them, but also things like growth hormone, which helps us build muscle, especially in response to things like strength training. So alcohol absolutely disrupts some of those hormonal processes at night, and people don't sleep as deeply, they don't wake up as well rested. It can then lead to more cravings. And then icing on the cake is often under the influence of alcohol. Our inhibitions go down, so we're more likely to be snacky. And think about some of the foods that often pair with alcohol. I don't know many people that are going to their kitchen to go throw together a big giant kale and beet and goat cheese salad, right? A lot of times it's chips or, desserts or salty foods. So alcohol, if you can take a 45-day complete break, it is one of the most powerful high ROI things you can do in our Pick 2 plan. So now, tip number 2 or option number 2 is I'm gonna go into our lunches. And why lunches? Because the middle of your day will set up your afternoon and your evening for success. And so I'm gonna pull one of my favorite props. I have this prominently featured in my nutrition counseling office, but when we work with clients, we call this the healthy plate. And so for 45 days, imagine if you focused on this healthy plate for your meals. Now, a couple things that I like about it. One is when you look at this plate, you can't unsee it. So think about this for a second. What do you notice? What's the first thing that jumps out at you when you stare at the plate in my hands? I hope you go right to that it's 50% veggies. So when we're coaching this with our regular clients, what I want you to do is just look down at your hand for a moment. I'm gonna guess, I've bet good money, that your hands have grown proportionally to your height. So if you're a little taller, bigger hands. If you're a little smaller, smaller hands. About one of your hands across the healthy plate is a really good portion to get into your lunchtime veggies. And a lot of times people don't pack enough veggies or any veggies with their lunch. So this is what we want to start you with. Then we want to put protein on the plate next, about the palm of your hand. So roughly one outstretched palm is a really good portion size for protein. Dinner leftovers make excellent protein options. Lastly, we want to get a little bit of carbohydrate. Now, I'm not going to go into the full carb debate in this video. We can talk about that another time, friends. But I want you to think about a balled up fist or a little bit less if you have a more sedentary job, but think very high quality nature carbs. So what are those examples? That would be things like sweet potato, quinoa, brown rice, right? Like nature made them and they really aren't processed at all. Now, in the middle of the day, lunches can make a huge difference in your energy level. So where I find a lot of my clients start to go sort of sideways is they just go into work really underprepared, right? They haven't packed enough food, so they're limited to what's in their immediate environment. They might eat out more. They might be more, tempted to go to their company's vending machine. If they're working from home, they're kind of snacky in their fridge, their pantry, their cupboards, but they haven't thought through a complete meal. By getting the complete meal in the middle of your day, you're setting your blood sugars to slowly kind of increase and slowly decrease through the afternoon. You'll hopefully avoid that midday crash where you're craving caffeine or sugar for the pick-me-up, and you're regulating yourself so that when you come into the dinner time meal, you are appropriately hungry, but you're not ravenous. So what we don't want to do is come home at the end of the workday being just like a caged animal looking for food because you haven't had enough to eat. So packing a healthy lunch is going to force you to maybe dinner plan a little bit better because that will give you leftovers. Maybe that would encourage the skill of some batch cooking. So then that way you've got some options that are ready to go in your fridge or your freezer. And then this will give you a really nice balance of macronutrients, setting up stable energy levels through the afternoon and into the evening. So if this really appeals to you, this is a super high impact skill on our Pick 2 plan. Right. Tip number 3 is to try 45 days, no snacking. Now, one caveat. If you are an athlete, if you have a really high energy expenditure, don't pick this one. Your needs are going to be much higher than the general public, and snacking for you is going to be a really important way to meet your needs. But most people are way too sedentary, meaning we sit on our butts for way too much of the day, and we're in an overabundant food environment, meaning it is way too easy to get into high calorie foods. Now, most of the time, unless you're snacking with intentionality and really building your snacks around whole foods, snacking is where most of us get really hyper processed foods into our body. So a lot of times people will make real food meals, which is excellent, but it's the snacks where they fall short. So trying 45 days with no snacks, so nothing between breakfast and lunch, nothing between lunch and dinner, nothing after your last meal of the day, is an interesting way to do a couple of things. One, it's going to increase your mindfulness of why are you eating. Many times when people are snacking, it is not real hunger. It's not coming from a physiological need that their blood sugar and their energy levels are dropping. It's boredom, it's habit, it's stress, it's to manage anxiety. So this is going to actually give you a 45-day reset to look at your feelings and what the pull is into why you're snacking in the first place. The second thing is this is going to allow you to normalize feeling a little bit hungry going into your next meal. So one of the problems in this sort of snacking society that we've created is people just graze all day long, meaning they don't have an opportunity to feel their real hunger, then get satisfied post-meal, and then have 3 to 5 to 6 hours go by before they feel hungry again. So trying 45 days with no snacking or minimal snacking, ideally whole food if you have to snack, is just going to be an awesome reset for those hunger cues. And I think for many of us, it's going to force an emotional introspection of, am I using this because I'm bored? Am I using this because I'm lonely? Am I doing this because I'm anxious? And if there are some emotional pulls to go eat for non-hunger reasons, this will be a great period to explore those with non-judgmental curiosity and see if you can feel better without using food as the gateway drug to manage your emotional state. So give that a try if this is something that you really resonate with. Option number 4 is to really aim for 10,000 steps a day. Now, this is one of those goals where having some smart wearable technology like a smartwatch or a ring, something, or even your phone, I think actually keeps track of step count. But having a tangible number like 10,000 steps is a great way to ensure that you're not sedentary and sitting down the entire day. To get to 10,000 steps, unless you're just like running chores all over your house, usually means you have to take yourself outside. So there's a couple of layered benefits to this Pick 2 habit. And it's that you're gonna get outdoor time in nature. Most of the time when people are walking outdoors, they are away from screens. So it pattern interrupts sitting in front of a computer, being on your phone. It is an awesome way to relieve stress. And actually walking is one way that the body completes the stress cycle. And then if you are with a partner, a significant other, family members, this is a great way just to strengthen that bond and connect. One of probably my favorite habits I've adopted is our after dinner evening walk. So my husband and I, a couple of years ago, made the commitment that we didn't want to just sit around after dinner and, watch TV. We wanted to be really intentional in our 30s with a habit that was going to set us up for lifelong health and a really close relationship. And so as we were discussing it, we realized a walk was one of the best ways that we could talk and connect with each other every day and get some gentle physical activity post dinner. So we found a route that's about 35 minutes. Now, over time, a couple of things that we've added to like level up the challenge of our walk. I'm a little geeky. As you maybe can tell, I love reading books, but one of the books that really planted the seed for me was called The Comfort Crisis. And one of the things that the authors explored in The Comfort Crisis is that human beings were designed to walk long distances slowly over time, but also to sometimes carry heavy objects or odd objects. And in the book, he talks about an idea called rucking. Now, rucking is where you wear a weighted pack and walk around with a little bit of weight. My husband's also ex-military, so he's done rucking as part of, his military training. But I just kind of grasped and jumped on that idea and ended up ordering a backpack that can easily slip weights into it. And so I built up over time. Now, sometimes I just walk wearing nothing, but it's been really fun over the years to actually wear this backpack, increasing in weights over time. It burns more calories. It's a great way just to kind of keep yourself in that zone 2 heart rate where you're able to carry on a conversation, but you're just a little breathless, which is so good for blood glucose regulation, circulatory system, really reducing things like cardiac disease long term. It is amazing for insulin sensitivity because your muscles are forced to pull glucose out of the bloodstream. And when your muscles are exercising, they don't need insulin as the key to open the muscle door. So even though I lift weights and I do CrossFit and yoga and hiking for fun, this after dinner walk and really aiming to get 10,000 steps a day has been one of the best things for my mental health. And also I really noticed it translated to much better sleep. So this is a non-food suggestion, but for many of us that are really stressed out, it might be an awesome pick 2-1 for you to play along with for 45 days, just to see how it makes you feel. Option 5 on our list is to keep it really simple. 2 large servings of vegetables every single day. When we work with new nutrition clients at our practice, this is often one of the foundational skills we kick it off. So if I go back to my friend, the healthy plate, and again, we look at one outstretched hand being a serving size, here's the psychology and the science behind this being such a priority goal. One is we call it plate displacement. So if I conquer 50% of my plate being covered in veggies, what it does from a calorie standpoint is, half the plate is already dominated, so I only have half the plate left for some of those higher calorie foods. The second thing is there's just so much fiber and those key essential vitamins and minerals coming from our veggies. So what does that do? It's gonna really increase my energy level, meaning I'm gonna feel fantastic. I'm not gonna need as much sugar and caffeine to be, bounding full of energy. My skin, my cells, my hair, all the different parts of my body are gonna get some of those key micronutrients to help them thrive and grow at a really healthy rate. On top of that, the way that our digestive system works and our stomach is our stomach isn't always the best at reading calories, but it's very good at reading texture and pressure. So as I put more vegetables into my digestive tract, they are going to fill up the space inside my stomach. That's gonna put pressure on the stomach walls, and I'm gonna get feedback from my stomach to my brain going, there's food in here, because I can feel that there's food pushing against those pressure receptors. At the very base of our stomach, we have this little ring of muscles called the caloric sphincter, and that ring opens and closes really slowly, allowing little squirts of food to leave the stomach into the small intestine. Think of it like a security guard that is guarding the door. It's like the bouncer to the small intestine. The rougher and the more crunchy the texture, the longer the food has to remain in the stomach as the stomach continues to grind and churn and break it down. So if I were to have, I'll give you a couple of examples. If I were to have apple juice or applesauce, which are really soft textures, those are gonna move through really quickly into the small intestine, raising my blood sugar more rapidly. But if I were to eat a whole apple, I have to chew it, my stomach has to crush it up, and then it's gonna take a lot longer for those same units of carbohydrate to move along into the small intestine. So veggies are amazing at slowing the movement of food from the stomach to the small intestine, meaning anything else that happens to be in the stomach also kind of gets delayed because of veggies being in there. So this is a really high impact habit. I love it because instead of having to have calorie counting and apps, it's basically a simple check mark. Yep, I had a large serving of veggies at one point. Lunch might be easiest. Yep, I had another large serving of veggies at my next meal. Dinner, again, might be the easiest way. But hey, if you miss a meal, what's really forgiving about this habit is you can make it up any other time in the day. You want half plate of veggies at breakfast? Go for it. If you want to have a large pack serving of veggies with one of your snacks, absolutely that's fine. But if you can aim for twice a day, about the size of your hand, for 45 days, you are going to feel so great. And there's a lot scientifically that's happening in your stomach, in your small intestine, the way that hunger and fullness cues work, that this is going to be a very high impact, extremely rewarding habit to focus on. Option number 6 to play for 45 days is to go really mindfully with your meals. And what I mean by mindfully, I'm going to take away your TV, your phone, and your computer. Meaning try 45 days with absolutely no screen present while you're eating. That means you can't watch a show and have dinner. That means you can't work on lunch and be grabbing bites of food while you're typing out another email. That means you can't be scrolling on your phone to relax and eat. Why this suggestion? One, I think we're becoming extremely addicted to technology and our smartphones. So this is just a great way to sort of have a little bit of a dopamine detox. But the second more important reason is you have to learn how to refill hunger and fullness. So many of us just eat and don't even notice what we've put into our mouth. We haven't tasted it. We haven't chewed it as well as we could. We've eaten way too rapidly, and we're missing the cues when we're starting to get satisfied and we overeat into uncomfortable, distended fullness. So this is going to really raise and make you more astute to your hunger and fullness cues. On top of that, I think it also connects a lot to our stress. If you think about a work day where you have a distracted breakfast, maybe you eat in the car or in rush hour, rushing to a job, then you're having lunch while you're trying to knock out another project in front of a screen, you're mindlessly snacking through the day, and then you come home and have dinner and you're watching a show at the same time, your brain hasn't really associated that it's had a chance to have a break and disconnect. And so what I notice in many of my clients, thousands of hours of counseling people, is the people who feel like they didn't stop and have breaks are much more likely to use stress eating, emotional eating in the evening to make themselves feel better. Or my clients, I have one of my dietitians on my team that led such a beautiful example. We worked it into her calendar where we always gave her, like all my dietitians, but she was so intentional that she took 30 minutes to eat. We have an outside, deck that's really nice in the sun, or in the winter we'd eat here at the table. And then essentially she always took a 30-minute walk as part of her lunch break. And she was like, I need that full hour to disconnect from my work, to eat slowly, to go for that walk. And I'm going to come back in the afternoon feeling so refreshed. And so I took a page out of her book and I was like, she's always maintained a really lean body composition. She's so high energy. She never really seems like she stress eats or struggles with that. And as we got discussing it and looking at the literature, just that really intentional, mindful point of eating and that break midday was probably one of the best skills she's going to carry through the rest of her life. So here's what I want to challenge you if you want to pick up this habit in the next 45 days. Commit to 80% of your meals or more screen-free. It is a lot harder than it sounds, but this is one of the most rewarding habits if you can really find mastery here. All right, our 7th and final option from our Pick 2 plan is to go really hard on the nutrient protein. Why protein? There's some cool things that protein does a little bit differently than those other major macronutrients. The first is something called the thermic effect of food. TEF looks at how many calories do we burn as we're digesting and breaking down that particular nutrient. And what's phenomenal is about 40% of the calories in protein are physically used up and burned as our digestive system has to break down protein. Another thing about protein is that it's really, really satisfying. So it's a nutrient that spends a little bit more time in our stomach. It takes a lot more work for it to break down. So we get longer signals of fullness from our stomach to our brain whenever we eat high protein foods. Thirdly, if body composition goals are part of, what you're looking for, and maybe you are looking to lose some weight or aesthetically, lean out just a little bit, what we tend to find is when people are on a weight loss journey, they are at risk of losing some of their lean muscle mass as the weight on the scale goes down. So one of the things that research supports is people who eat higher protein while they're losing weight keep their metabolic rate much higher, and they're a lot less likely to lose important lean muscle mass on the way down. It allows you to lose a little bit more body fat while preserving the muscle that you have. So for you number geeks, if you're like, okay, I like the idea, how much is a serving or how much should I be aiming for? A good rule of thumb is about 30 to 45 grams per meal. And for a lot of people, it's really about increasing their protein in the first half of the day, breakfast and lunch, so that it's more evenly spread, that their muscles have access to it as you're continuing to maintain and build lean muscle. What we see in our society is we tend to have a very protein heavy end of the day, but not nearly enough protein in the front half of the day, which again can make us really snacky and feel hungry. So protein is going to be our final high return on investment skill in this Pick 2 plan. All right, so I've given you a little platter of 7 high impact areas that you can focus, but here's the thing. Trying to do all 7 at once is almost entirely gonna set you up to fail. It's just too many things to juggle. And remember that habits take repetitions and consistency before they become ingrained into our daily routines. So my advice is to truly start with 2. Go with the 2 that feel challenging, but not impossible. You're excited, but you know it's gonna take a little bit of focus. And so to help with focus, what we have is a free printable that you can go and download and put in a place that you're gonna look at every day. And you can basically check off on the printable, yes, I did my daily habit. And I want you to see over 45 days, your healthy you scoreboard adding up full of reps. So like, yes, I had a half plate of veggies at lunch. Or like, yes, I focused on the healthy plate, crushed my lunch meal. Oh, another mindful meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, no screens. That was really helpful. So download that printable, play it for 45 days, and then here's the beauty. You can print it again and pick 2 new habits. Or maybe there's one habit that you've mastered and one you're still working on. Mix and match to your heart's desire. We're a community that supports one another. I would love to hear from you down below which 2 you're gonna start out with. So maybe it was the walking and the 2 veggies a day. Maybe it's focusing on 45 days without alcohol and no snacks. Maybe you like the black and white of this is the rule, don't cross it. So some people do better thinking about things they want to abstain from, while other people find it easier to focus on habits or goals they're going to do more of. So play to your heart's content. Let us know down below which 2 you've selected, and I am so excited to support you and cheer you on in this healthy living endeavor. I'll see you in the next one. I'm Jen Broxterman.